My name is Kevin Jones. I am a developer relations engineer working for EdgeNode, working on the Graph protocol. I'm also a core member of the Build Guild, supporting Scaffold ETH, which is a great toolkit for learning to build on Ethereum. But yeah, why don't we start off? We'll just do introductions, maybe tell a little bit about yourself and a little fun fact, like what you're doing in the ecosystem, and then a fun fact about yourself, starting here.
So I'm Dave Grantham. Let's see. My resume includes, so right now I'm doing community management for libp2p, for DRAN, for several other companies. Um, uh, hmm, but also security team at Polygon. Also, I was part of the libp2p project at Protocol Labs. Before that, I did time in the Linux Foundation, Mozilla, the Tor project, Second Life. Like, I've been in open source since the mid 90s, like 1994. Slackware 0.99.
Oh,
Yeah, so 30 years actually this year. I am actually that old. That's my fun fact.
you look good, then. You look good.
Thank you. Thank you. That's my fun fact. Dmitriy?
Hi. Yeah, I guess similar. I mean, I was I did libp2p as well. I was at the Protocol Labs for a while. I've been doing all sorts of random stuff since then. I worked on one of this. I worked on Mustacal. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but it was a fun project. A light client for Ethereum back in 2018 or 2017, kind of trying to shard the state and stuff like that and put it on Ethereum and run it in the browser kind of thing. And then I ended up working with Status and kind of building their libp2p implementation, or working on their libp2p implementation. Since then, I've been working on Codex.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Franck. I haven't been that long in the domain, I guess 2018, still okay. Started with Monero and Bitcoin, Atomic Swap, Ethereum, Atomic Swap, Lightning Bitcoin. I started with that, it was good fun. Actually, the library is being used. Many fun fact. The library we worked in Rust is still being used today by various Bitcoin, Monero, Atomic Swap projects, so that's very proud of that. I'm currently leading the Waku project, so communication side, Codex storage, Waku communication in the Logos technology stack. Yeah, Franck.
Thank you. I'm honored to be on this panel with you guys. It's awesome. Also, fun fact, I used to work for Nginx, speaking of open source. So near and dear to my heart, open source topic. So cool. So I wanted to set the stone on like the word privacy, and like maybe you guys can take a quick second to just talk about why privacy is important to you, and then also in terms of like the company you represent and the community that represents your protocol. I don't know who wants to start.
Yeah, I can start. So I didn't start purely for privacy. For me, it's more about the competition, like a lot of monopolies. And when you look at how do you have an open market, how do you break competition, how do you allow people to enter in, then inevitably you have privacy coming into in there to be able to stop censorship, for example, or being able to prevent monopolies getting entry to that. So that's originally how it started. Now it seems when looking at and especially when looking at tech companies and how they were able to build their monopoly on data, that's where then privacy becomes a very important aspect to that. So for Waku, the idea is to build private communication. So it's very important for us. And then the question is, how do we achieve that as well? And having an approach where we're able to build private communication for everyone in an easy manner. And that involves more than just having a technology stack. It also involves being able to have an infrastructure behind it and sustainability and all those other problems that come when you want to have guaranteed privacy features.
Anyone else want to chime in?
I'll jump in. So let's see, privacy to me, it's really about allowing me to organize my life in the way I choose. It's really the ultimate control over who I'm friends with, who gets to know anything about me, who gets to be inside my inner circle. But if without privacy, then there are no ways for us to have like different spheres of our existence. So like our family, and then our immediate friends, and then our communities around us, and then our global community that we're all part of. And so privacy is a critical piece of all of that. You have to be able to make those walls to separate those things. I take a much more militant approach to it, actually. Having been part of the Tor project and a lot of kind of very edgy software projects over the years, I've been on one side or the other of real fights. People died, like literally died, through data compromise, through, surveillance, that kind of stuff. I worked on a lot of information warfare surveillance theory when I was at Mozilla, and it really sunk in one time. Like everything changed for me in one specific event. I thought it was just fun software, like, oh, hey, we're doing cryptography, whatever. And then I was in an event in Paris at a Tor developer meetup, and a woman came. She had flown from Syria to come meet us, to thank us, because she was a Red Cross worker, charity. She provided food and shelter and all this stuff for needy people, but it's a Christian organization in a very Muslim country. And when the area they were in was overrun by some Islamic militant group or something, they immediately went to the phone company and started looking at everybody's internet histories. And anybody that had gone to the Red Cross, men, women, and children, were dragged into the streets and machine gunned. And she was there because her son had said we should use Tor. And so none of their traffic was in the logs at the telco. And they are still alive today. And she broke down crying and hugged all of us because it saved her and her family and everything. And it changed everything for me. It made me think that from now on, I'm going to live as if I am a free person in a free world. I don't really care where I'm at. I'm going to use cryptography in a way to build systems that cannot be broken if at all possible, right? No matter how much money you have, no matter how much force of will you have, if cryptography is used correctly, you cannot break it. It is the most single empowering tool we have for individuals against any kind of oppressive organization, whether it be corporate or government or anything like that. So to me, privacy really strikes at the core of who I am. And it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, I understand this. I kind of feel a responsibility to do it. So anyway, sorry, I got dark there. It ranted a little bit.
That's an impactful story.
But I don't think people realize that there are real world consequences of what we do. People do live and die by how well we, handle the software we write.
Yeah, I just think like we're at this point now where, Web3 and like the whole space is evolving pretty quickly, and we have a really good chance to build things the right way with this kind of reinvention of the internet that we all see like in our minds, especially when it comes to privacy. And I think like, yeah, Tor has been a game changer, right? Like to how people communicate and are able to do privacy. And so we just need to build on those same kind of, foundations. So it's super impactful. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I don't have an impactful story as that to tell, but privacy is incredibly important. I see it as both a means and an end, right? So it is a fundamental right. So for the same reasons you're saying, like practical reasons, you want to be protected. There is an inherent right to be to have privacy, right? You can probably kind of start imagining a world right now where all the newer devices coming online and stuff like that, where that might not necessarily be a reality anymore, right? Well, it's not hard to imagine a future, potentially not a very far one, where your thoughts are not yours anymore. Right? So I think it's becoming more and more real. Again, maybe you don't have like you had to be exposed to something very, very specific to kind of suffer the consequences in the past. Now it might become something a lot more prevalent. It's just so. And from another perspective, it's privacy. It's also a tool, right? So you can accomplish things with it. You can use it as an engineer, you can use it for building mechanisms and stuff like that. So that's another angle for me.
Yeah. So the title of this talk is really about the future of privacy and like real world kind of use cases. So I kind of want to pivot a little bit to like, what is the current state of privacy on blockchain data and on blockchains in general? How is privacy currently in state? And then what are some of the problems, I guess, that we're trying to solve in that kind of current state? Where can we evolve from here?
I think there aren't a lot of privacy-oriented chains right now. I know we're building one. It is a big problem. I think we have all the tools to start fixing that. Lots of new cool toys have come out in the last few years. So I think we have all the tools to do it at the transaction layer, for example, at shielding transactions, things like that. But I think it's still a problem at the communication layer. I think that's where we have probably the most amount of things to solve and deal with.
Did you guys have anything to add?
I would agree with Dmitry that the communication layer is where we need to put a lot of energy. Not to harp on this more, but like some of the software projects that I've worked on have been actively attacked by well-funded militaries. And you learn really quickly that if there's anything that is exposed, like gives them leverage on you, whether it's autonomous system numbers and BGP peering routes, like they will black hole you so fast. They can take over your domain names. They can, any fixed infrastructure, like a server or anything like that, is just a prime target. And so one of the things that I've been pushing on for 20 years now, but it's finally coming to fruition, is understanding the underlying theory of decentralization. Like, what are the fundamental problems, the things that are orthogonal to each other, and coming up with decentralized solutions to each one of them so that we can build these things. And I'm going to give you guys a cool word. I call them metastable networks. It's a term borrowed from physics, which is like order from chaos. It's theoretically unstable, but in all intents and purposes, it is stable. So we're building very close. I'm actually right in the middle of it right now. The world's very first metastable networks, heavily inspired by libp2p's design, and they're networks that have zero fixed infrastructure, made of mobile devices that come and go randomly, that change their IP addresses randomly, their firewall status randomly, all of those things. And yet the network itself persists over a long period of time. So it always acts as if it's up. To the users, it looks like there's a server that's always up because they can always connect. They can always talk to other people. They can always do a data sync or whatever. But again, there's no fixed infrastructure. There is no point of leverage. There's no place that can be attacked. It becomes a thing where it's like, if the internet is on, these networks exist. And the only way to stop them would be to turn the entire internet off. Because there's no fixed infrastructure. There's no autonomous system number. There's no BGP routes to mess with. There's, none of that. So anyway, that's where I see this going. I mean, the blockchains have been really great to get people to think like, hey, we can do incentive hacking to get something that's stable, that works for everybody in an egalitarian way. But now I'm starting to see them as almost fixed infrastructure. They actually have a pretty strong centralization pressure on products, right? Like, the dirty secret in Web3 is that most of the things you use are 3 servers. Like, hey, I've got this wonderful decentralized thing, except there's one server that everybody talks to, right? That's not really decentralized now, is it? Decentralization's about power, not about computers. That's kind of where my head is at these days. Sorry, I'm totally filibustering.
No, that's
Frank?
Yeah, I jump in. I think I would talking about decentralization. I think we need to remember it's a mean, right? We are not decentralizing systems just for the sake of them being decentralized. We are trying to have a specific a specific goal. which might be around privacy, which might be around sovereignty, which might be around censorship resistance. And when you, for example, let's remember why Ethereum was created, right? Was to have sovereignty of on your own items in the game. And so when you want to have sovereignty, you have to have a look of what properties are needed for you to achieve that. And most likely, privacy is needed because you want to not be censored from the access to the game. And hence, you have to have some privacy there so you can always enter the game. And there is no centralized gatekeeper that can stop you to do so. So when looking at project, and we can, of course, as you mentioned, like many projects have some form of decentralized network, but when you grab the end user, they are going to use one wallet from one company through their server, through the servers of some REST RPC API, and all of that means that it's not decentralized. But what it really means, it means that there is no privacy, there's potentially no censorship resistant. And when things actually matter, then it crumbles, right? When things actually matter and you're trying to put this technology in the hand of an end user that actually needs it from a story, then it doesn't work, right? So yes, decentralization it's a mean, it's not an end goal. And I think it's important when looking at the current technology, it's important to remember, okay, why are we building that? And then from there, we can understand, okay, why, like, is it working? Is it as permissionless or as open participation as we want? And if not, where are the bottlenecks and how can we move away from them? There has been a push to make Ethereum more cypherpunk. So I think that's great, but more needs to happen. As Dmitriy said, like we have the technology today. Maybe the final point was having a privacy not by default systems is also something where we need to be better, right? If you start in a system where you have to opt in privacy, then just by opting in, you are reducing your own privacy, and hence you may not care about privacy yourself, but it does endanger others using it. So having systems where we can start privacy by default and then expose whatever we want to expose thanks to the zero-knowledge technology will be a much better approach to achieve our goal of sovereignty.
So I've got six principles. Absolute privacy by default, absolute pseudonymity by default, open and standard protocols for all data, open standards for all data and protocols, open and strong encryption always, what, not who, for authorization. So like, I possess this key, I therefore can do this, or I have these tokens, whatever, but you don't need to know who I am. And then also consent-based revocable power structure. Those are the 6 principles that I always follow when I'm engineering stuff. Those are the things that I'm always thinking about. I like that you said privacy by default, but there's other ones too, I think, that we should all consider. But you're right, though. I thought you said decentralization is a meme. That's what I was. That's pretty awesome. It's like a meme there. Memes, not me.
Just a meme.
It's just a meme.
I hope you guys are taking notes. This is really good stuff. So I think one of the questions I have, it's kind of a 2-part question. It's first of all, like, how do we incentivize developers to build with a focus of privacy? And on top of that, how do we change the narrative for, governments and, different aspects of people thinking about our space as not a place where we should be private? Like, it should be fully open. And, an example would be, Tornado Cash, right? The creator is in jail, So I think a lot of developers are a little afraid to work in a privacy kind of focused environment. So how do we overcome that? Right? How do we change the narrative and, mix it up? Who wants to go?
Just do absolute privacy first and then the money later. Because if the money's only in a private network, then nobody knows that it's there, I guess. I don't know. It's really tough when you're talking about money because people get really mad.
I'm only mad when I don't have it.
Yeah. That's an interesting question. I think it's about control, right? Specifically with Tornado Cash, it's the government will always want to have control. As soon as you take it away from them, it's going to be trouble. I guess, going dark is one way of dealing with that, but yeah, I don't have a very good answer there. I don't know.
I mean, we could build networks that, like I was saying earlier, exist as long as the internet's on. And so then their choice is keep the internet on and just accept that it is there, or turn the entire internet off to try to stop it. But they're so reliant on the internet themselves.
That is powerful.
So
Yeah.
that they're stuck in a lose-lose situation. Either way, they lose control.
Would you say
If we have
like
something like
Bitcoin
that, then yeah.
is an example of that?
No, Bitcoin has there's 4 of the fundamental problems that Bitcoin doesn't solve, and it made Coinbase inevitable because those are the exact things that Coinbase solves. Same thing with Git. Git only solves like 6 of the 9 problems, and that makes GitHub inevitable because that's what GitHub does, right? And so that's why I want back to like, what are the fundamental problems, and trying to figure out decentralized solutions to all of them, because if you don't solve all of them, it leaves that system open to corporate centralization, corporate takeover, and government influence.
I was talking with my colleague from the private chain that is part of the Logos technology stack, and he was stating, how do we force feed people privacy and sovereignty the same way that Google and Facebook has force fed them data harvesting, and I think I think it's very similar to what you're saying, right? Can we build something where they have to rely on it and they can turn it off? So what's interesting with privacy is that institutions do need privacy in some way or another, right? Like if someone is a JP Morgan customer and they learn that all the assets are clearly visible on chain and can be linked back to them, they're not going to be a happy customer. And I think this could be a strategy to get inside, to make the technology so relevant to the powers that they can't turn it off and actually have interest into it. And for privacy, financial privacy, institutions and commercial financial system is one way to potentially get inside and make it so that, I'm working for JP Morgan, but I'm building a ZK chain, private ZK chain, because it's what they need. And once it's out there because of having good underlying principle around open source and permission system. But it does mean being, I think, very strict as well on following these principles and not beating. So that's one idea.
Awesome. We only have a couple minutes here, but I'd want to see if you guys can just give me one exciting thing that one thing you're excited about for the future in terms of maybe advancing technology and security space today. Like, what is the number one thing?
I mean, like zero knowledge technology is absolutely awesome. I think what's interesting with zero knowledge technology is that it can give you this default privacy and be able to reveal what you want to reveal without, the what reveal. I own here the proof of me owning something or having done an action. You don't need to know who I am in the system. You don't need to know any of the other activities that are doing the system. But me showing this proof allows some legitimate use of things. So, and this is technology. Zero knowledge is a technology of the future. Yeah.
I'll take it a much higher. FHE.
Well, yeah. The thing I'm most excited about is fully verifiable key histories as the fundamental unit of identity on the internet now. We've solved the problem as of this year of controlled logs, right? Controlling who can add them. And we've solved the forking problem. So what happens if your keys get compromised? There's an actual solution to this now. And so now you can have a fully verifiable key history and other related data on something like IPFS or anywhere, and we can now get away from using public keys as our identifiers. So you can now have a self-healing global PKI network. In fact, I'm building it right now, literally replacing GPG. It has a fully decentralized DHT for lookups, and it allows you to go from like public keys found in the wild to the Vlad, which is the new identifier that's not key material, so it doesn't make any sense to compromise it. It is. And then the Vlad points to your key history, and so you can get the whole key history. And this allows you to unilaterally and securely restore or your links to other people. So if I have like your old public key, I can use your old public key to get your whole key history, see the old key in your history, verify the log up to your current key, and now I have your current key. So it's a fully decentralized PKI infrastructure. We're putting them in Git repos now, so we can do GitHub without the hub. So like solving all 9 of the problems with decentralized solutions, and we're getting all kinds of cool stuff.
Palm's going to go off over there. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for everyone. A round of applause. That was an amazing panel. Thank you.